In 1987, Dean Martin experienced the kind of loss no parent ever fully recovers from. His son, Dean Paul Martin, a former pop singer turned Air National Guard pilot, died in a tragic plane crash during a routine training mission in California. He was just 35 years old. Dean Paul had been flying an F-4 Phantom jet when it disappeared into a snowy mountainside near the San Bernardino National Forest. The wreckage wasn't even found right away. For days, Dean Martin and his family clung to hope, only to have it shattered when search crews finally located the site. Dean Paul wasn't just any son. He was someone Dean Martin had been especially close to. A proud father, he'd watched his son evolve from teen idol to respected military man. Losing him so suddenly broke something inside Dean. Friends say the grief hollowed him out. He stopped cracking jokes, he stopped singing. The man once called the king of cool, known for his effortless charm and laid-back swagger, seemed to fade into himself. Dean became increasingly reclusive, turning down interviews, concert offers, and even a highly anticipated Rat Pack reunion tour with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. He walked away from stages that once adored him, and from millions of dollars in offers that held no meaning for him anymore. He wasn't chasing fame or money. He was simply trying to survive the silence his son left behind. His final years were quiet, spent away from the glitz of Hollywood. He found brief moments of peace in golf and old westerns, far removed from the spotlight that had once followed his every move. Friends say he never fully recovered from that devastating loss. He died on Christmas Day in 1995, exactly 8 years after losing Dean Paul, almost as if the heartbreak had run its course. But behind that sorrow, Dean had quietly done something incredible. He made sure his family would be taken care of after he was gone. His fortune, carefully managed and deeply rooted in decades of hard work, would become his final gift to those he loved. Before he became Dean Martin, the suave crooner with a glass of whiskey in his hand and a twinkle in his eye, he was simply Dino Paul Crocetti, the shy son of Italian immigrants trying to find their place in America. Born on June 7, 1917, in the small industrial town of Steubenville, Ohio, Dino grew up in a modest household where money was tight and English was a second language. In fact, when Dino started school at the age of 5, he didn't speak a single word of English, only Italian. The other kids teased him for his broken speech and funny name. He wasn't just the new kid, he was the outsider. This early experience of being different left a deep impression on him. But Dino didn't react with anger. Instead, he learned a powerful lesson. If you could make people laugh, they'd stop laughing at you. That's when humor became his secret weapon. It was a way to survive, to connect, and later, to charm entire audiences. But his road to fame was anything but smooth. By his teens, Dean was looking for an escape from the struggles of his working-class life. He found it in music, specifically playing the drums. It gave him joy, a rhythm to lose himself in, and planted the first seeds of his love for performing. Still, by the age of 16, he made a bold decision that shocked his family. He dropped out of high school. He didn't see the point in continuing. School wasn't where his future was. Instead, he threw himself into the gritty blue-collar world that many immigrant sons knew too well. He worked in steel mills, where the heat was unbearable, the labor exhausting, and the hours long. He also tried his hand at boxing, going by the name Kid Crochet. He only won 1 out of 12 fights, but what he lacked in technique, he made up for in grit. The ring left him with broken knuckles, a crooked nose, and a tough exterior, but also a deep reservoir of resilience. Dean wasn't afraid to take risks. During Prohibition, he bootlegged liquor, dodging the law to make a living. He worked as a blackjack dealer in smoky underground clubs. It was dangerous, no doubt, but it taught him how to read a room, how to charm people, and how to keep his cool when things got rough. These early experiences shaped not just his persona, but his real-life toughness, hidden behind that relaxed, effortless smile. And through it all, he never let go of his dream to entertain. When he finally stepped into the spotlight as a nightclub singer, first under the name Dino Martini, then eventually as Dean Martin, he brought with him every ounce of that hard-earned charm, street smarts, and resilience. He wasn't just a natural. He was shaped by struggle, molded by hardship, and driven by the quiet pain of a boy who once didn't belong. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis met by chance in 1945 at a New York nightclub. Dean, the smooth singer, and Jerry, the wild, up-and-coming comedian, clicked instantly when Jerry began interrupting Dean's act with goofy antics. Instead of ruining the show, they brought the house down, and a new comedy duo was born. Their chemistry was electric. Dean's cool crooning paired perfectly with Jerry's slapstick humor. They didn't rely on scripts. They improvised, creating fresh, unpredictable shows that wowed audiences. In just a few years, they skyrocketed to fame with sold-out shows, a hit radio program, and 16 box office smashing films. But behind the scenes, things were unraveling. Dean started to feel like the straight man who set up Jerry for all the laughs and rarely got the credit. Jerry was a control freak. Dean preferred spontaneity. The tension grew, and by 1956, the partnership collapsed. Their final show at the Copacabana was emotional but strained. After a decade together, they split and didn't speak for 20 years. Though their friendship fell apart, Martin and Lewis changed comedy forever. Their dynamic inspired generations and proved that even the biggest laughs sometimes come with the deepest divides. By the mid-1950s, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were the most famous duo in showbiz. But behind the scenes, things were falling apart. Dean had grown tired of being seen as just the straight man, the one who set Jerry up for laughs while getting little credit himself. While Jerry thrived under the spotlight and demanded perfection, Dean preferred a looser, more relaxed style. Their differences became impossible to ignore. The tension peaked during the filming of Three Ring Circus, where Dean had only 2 songs and Jerry dominated the screen. Dean began to feel like a sidekick, even joking bitterly, "What am I around here, a fifth wheel?" Offstage, things were just as bad. Magazines cropped Dean out of photos, kids asked him where Jerry was, and critics often overlooked his role entirely. Their final movie, Hollywood or Bust, 1956, was made in near silence between the two. On set, the atmosphere was icy, and even their final performance together, on July 25, 1956, at the Copacabana, felt more like an obligation than a celebration. They performed partners one last time, but the magic was gone. After the curtain fell, so did their friendship. They didn't speak for 20 years. When Dean Martin walked away from Jerry Lewis in 1956, many people assumed his career was over. After all, in the eyes of the public, Jerry was the funny one, the loud, wild, unpredictable clown who stole every scene. Dean? He was the guy who sang a few songs and played it straight. Without Jerry, what could he possibly do? But Dean Martin had something far more powerful than slapstick. He had charm, talent, and grit, and he was about to prove that he didn't need anyone to shine. At first, it wasn't easy. His first solo film, 10,000 Bedrooms, was a flop. Critics weren't kind, and audiences weren't sure what to make of Dean without his comedic partner. At a time when rock and roll was exploding and crooners were starting to feel outdated, it looked like Dean might fade into obscurity. But Dean wasn't ready to disappear. In 1958, everything changed. He took a bold step and accepted a dramatic role in The Young Lions, a war film starring Marlon Brando and Montgomery Clift. This was a serious, emotional movie,
far from the comedy routines people were used to, and Dean delivered. Critics were stunned. Suddenly, the man who had been dismissed as just the straight guy proved he could hold his own next to Hollywood's most respected actors. Later that same year, he starred alongside Frank Sinatra and Shirley MacLaine in Some Came Running, a gritty drama that earned multiple Oscar nominations. Dean's performance impressed both audiences and critics. He wasn't just surviving without Jerry, he was thriving. And while his acting career was heating up, so was his music. Dean signed with Capitol Records and began releasing a string of hits. In 1958, he dropped Volare, which became a smash success in both the US and the UK, proving his international appeal. But it was in 1964 that he scored perhaps his most shocking musical triumph, Everybody Loves Somebody. The smooth ballad knocked the Beatles off the #1 spot on the Billboard charts. Let that sink in. At the height of Beatlemania, Dean Martin, the old-school crooner, outsold the most famous band in the world. He did it with confidence, charisma, and without ever trying to change who he was. While the world chased trends, Dean stayed true to his style, and it paid off. His comeback wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy. It was effortless, just like him. By the mid-1960s, Dean Martin had fully reinvented himself, not as part of a duo, but as a bona fide solo superstar. He was an acclaimed actor, a chart-topping singer, and soon he'd become a TV icon. The man they thought was finished after leaving Jerry Lewis had quietly become one of the most powerful entertainers in the business, all over again. In the late 1950s, Dean Martin joined the legendary Rat Pack, teaming up with Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Sammy Bishop, and Peter Lawford. Together, they redefined entertainment with their wildly spontaneous shows at the Sands Hotel in Las Vegas. These performances weren't scripted. They were full of inside jokes, smooth vocals, and effortless charisma. Dean stood out for his cool, laid-back presence. While Sinatra brought the intensity and Sammy dazzled with flair, Dean was the calm, funny glue that held it all together. He became known as the King of Cool, charming audiences with songs like That's Amore and Ain't That a Kick in the Head, all while sipping what he joked was whiskey, usually just apple juice. His style felt effortless, but it was magnetic. The Rat Pack's influence extended to Hollywood, too. Their film Ocean's 11, 1960, became a cultural moment, showcasing their offstage chemistry on the big screen. Dean also starred in Robin and the Seven Hoods, combining music and comedy with his signature charm. In Vegas and on-screen, Dean wasn't just playing cool, he embodied it, helping turn Las Vegas into the entertainment capital of the world. In 1965, Dean Martin launched The Dean Martin Show on NBC, a variety show that ran for 9 seasons and became a massive hit. Dean's relaxed, often unscripted hosting style, cracking jokes, sipping from his drink, and reading cue cards mid-show, charmed viewers. It felt like he was just having fun, and the audience loved him for it. The show featured music, sketch comedy, and big-name guests like Frank Sinatra and John Wayne. Dean's relaxed presence made the show feel like a weekly party. In 1967, he even won a Golden Globe, proving that he was just as powerful on TV as he was in film or music. But when ratings started to dip in the 70s, Dean didn't fade, he pivoted. In 1974, he introduced the Dean Martin Celebrity Roasts, which became cultural phenomena. Each roast featured stars poking fun at a celebrity guest in a playful, humorous way. Dean was the perfect host, funny, charming, and effortless cool.
These roasts gave audiences a rare glimpse of celebrities letting loose, and Dean's easygoing style kept it all lighthearted. They became some of his most iconic TV work, cementing his legacy as one of television's most beloved personalities. Behind Dean Martin's cool, laid-back persona was a man deeply committed to his family. He was married 3 times and had 8 children, yet he remained a constant, loving presence in all their lives. His first marriage to Betty McDonald produced 4 children, and though the marriage ended in divorce, Dean stayed involved as a father. His second marriage to Jean Beager lasted 24 years and brought 3 more children, Dean Paul, Richie, and Gina. Even after their divorce, they co-parented respectfully. His third marriage to Catherine Hahn was brief, but Dean adopted her daughter Sasha and continued to treat her like his own. Dean's daughter Deanna Martin often shared stories about how he was just dad at home, kind, funny, and present. He made each child feel important, no matter which marriage they came from. But the greatest heartbreak of his life came in 1987, when his son, Dean Paul, died in a plane crash at age 35. The tragedy changed him. He withdrew from the spotlight and became more private, focusing on family and quiet routines. Despite his fame, Dean's true legacy was the love and care he gave his children. By the time Dean Martin passed away on Christmas Day in 1995, he wasn't just a Hollywood legend, he was also a very wealthy man. With a net worth of $30 million, Dean left behind more than just memories and hit songs. He left behind a carefully built financial legacy that would support his family for generations. Unlike many entertainers of his era who spent recklessly or fell victim to bad business deals, Dean Martin was surprisingly savvy with his money. His fortune wasn't just the result of movie paychecks and sold-out concerts. It came from decades of smart decisions, calculated risks, and strategic investments. One of the smartest moves he made was establishing the Dean Martin Family Trust. This trust was designed not only to manage royalties from his music, television shows, and film appearances, but also to protect the financial interests of his 8 children after he was gone. Dean knew that the business of fame could be chaotic, and he wanted to make sure his family wouldn't be left scrambling. Through the trust, his heirs continued to earn income from TV reruns, music royalties, and licensing deals. Shows like The Dean Martin Show still air today, and songs like Everybody Loves Somebody and That's Amore remain in rotation across radio, streaming platforms, and commercials, bringing in ongoing revenue. Even merchandise and branding using Dean's image continued to sell, creating a consistent income stream. And it wasn't just his intellectual property that grew in value, his real estate investments paid off too. In the 1970s, Dean purchased a Beverly Hills home for just $120,000. He later expanded it into a 12,000-square-foot mansion. After his death, it was sold for $1.35 million. And just a few years later, it resold for over $2 million. Today, the rebuilt property is reportedly worth more than $28 million, showing just how much his eye for value paid off. He also owned a stylish home in Palm Springs, which he sold shortly after his death for $250,000, another asset that has appreciated significantly over time. But dividing such a large estate wasn't without challenges. Dean's 8 children, Craig, Claudia, Gail, Deanna, Dean Paul, deceased, Richie, Gina, and Sasha, each received a share of the trust. Their portions were distributed based on individual needs, relationships with Dean, and their roles in preserving his legacy. For example, his daughter Deanna Martin, who worked hard to keep her father's name alive through performances and public appearances, likely had greater involvement in how the estate was handled. Managing the estate meant securing the rights to Dean's music, image, and legacy. In an industry where ownership can be tricky, having a legal trust in place allowed his children to maintain control and ensure Dean's name was never misused. It gave them the freedom to strike new deals, like licensing his music, greenlighting documentaries, or authorizing biopics. Dean's financial foresight was rare among stars of his era. He didn't just build a career, he built an empire with staying power. And perhaps most importantly, he made sure his family would be cared for long after the final curtain fell. His fortune wasn't about showing off or living extravagantly. It was about security, stability, and love, the kind of legacy only someone who truly valued family would leave behind. Decades after his death, Dean Martin remains a timeless icon thanks to a combination of family dedication and smart estate management. His music still streams globally, his image appears in commercials, and younger audiences continue to discover him through platforms like YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok. A major reason his legacy has endured is his daughter Deanna Martin, who actively honors his memory. She tours internationally, performing his songs, and authored a touching memoir, Memories Are Made of This, which is now being turned into a movie. She also helps run the annual Dean Martin Festival in his hometown of Steubenville, Ohio, keeping his story alive and helping young musicians through scholarships. In 2023, the Dean Martin estate partnered with Iconic Artists Group, aiming to modernize his brand through merchandise, licensing deals, and upcoming film projects. These efforts have helped reintroduce Dean's charm and music to new generations. From Rat Pack Cool to digital playlists, Dean Martin's legacy is far from over. It's thriving in ways he likely never imagined.